Honkai Star Rail has a wonderful cast of characters. From wholesome and innocent children to the immortal and diseased, this game's characters along with their stories are what makes the game shine. However, unlike the last theory where I theorized that Zila is a possible speedster, this theory will be a full-on Five Nights at Freddy's gay theory type of theory. So buckle up for a long video as I predict the future of 3.0 story and may finally give us answers on Honkai Star Rail's most mysterious character. Friendly hello hi, the name's Raph, and I'm here to predict the future story of our nameless trailblazers as they delve deep into the depths of Amphoreus, the Eternal Land. Let's begin! Amphoreus is the newest planet we will go to in 3.0, which is so far only accessible via the Garden of Recollection. It's a planet created by 12 titans that I won't get into. However, these titans and their followers got messed up and went crazy due to an external force known as the Black Tide. Eventually, things go to shit with their day and night cycle, the planet is slowly dying and is currently stuck in some sort of limbo. However, there is a prophecy that states that chosen heroes must get the Titan's core flames and shove them into the vortex of Genesis, which will inevitably bring some sort of miracle that will hopefully get them back in the solar system without having to deal with using the Garden of Recollection or whatever. Oh yeah, the Astral Express will be there too for some reason? I don't know. I'm going off of this from Ashikai's quick summary of what we know about Amphoreus, and most of this information about the planet isn't important to what my theory is about. Other than what we don't know about Amphoreus, Honkai Star Rail still has a bunch of secrets they're keeping from us that may give us answers in the next update. For one, Remembrance Trailblazer may finally be the key to getting the Trailblazer's lore, since Remembrance is known for its connection to memories, which the Trailblazer lost when Kafka left us on Herta's space station. Other big question marks are the true motives of the IPC, who is Locha, and of course, Sampo, which I hope gets to become a 5-star elation character when the path eventually drops, since making new paths is possible for the devs. But I'm not gonna talk about them. Instead, I want to discuss Honkai Star Rail's biggest mystery. Enter March 7th, our bubbly 6-phase archer, legendary swordmaster, and pretty princess of the Astral Express. Silliness and sass aside, March 7th's past has been a mystery for the longest time. And even after almost 2 years of the game being out, we still don't know the true depths of who March was before she got encased in 6-phase dice. We have had glimpses of what could have happened to March, but nothing concrete to her actual past, so let me refresh your memory. In the 1.3 update, March 7th goes to Fu Xuan for help to find her memories. To dig deep into her past, March 7th uses her 6-phase ice as a source to find her memories with the help of Fu Xuan and the Matrix of Prescience. As we continue to dig deep and find any anomalies, we can notice something in the companion mission that's outside of March and Fu Xuan's view: the loading screens. Instead of the fun facts we get about characters, terms, and more, we get a message that reads, "Don't look back. March 7th, don't look back. Keep moving forward," which I will get to later. Eventually, we hit an interesting roadblock. Out of nowhere, the Astral Express messenger, you know, the one from Forgotten Hall, Memory of Chaos, that one, steps in and tries to stop March and Fu Xuan from progressing further, saying that she's trying to protect March from her memories. With March 7th not backing down, the messenger tries her best to stop March by leading her to her earliest memory of being encased in 6-phase ice, giving her a light cone of that memory as a gift. After that, Fu Xuan hypothesized that an Aeon most likely sealed March's memories away, but not necessarily fully, the Aeon of Remembrance. But what did March do that was so bad she had to get her memories wiped and sealed away? Who knows, maybe it's something completely different from what I'm about to say, but as in general, I don't know the answer. Really, I don't know. But I will get to what I think March was in her past later down the line in this video. After that quest, we didn't get much regarding March's memories, even in 2.0 and Penacony, other than her past being sealed away to protect her in the Fu Xuan quest. Even now, we don't have as much of a clue as to what March's past was like at all. So why is the video's runtime so long? Black Swan is a memo keeper who first shows up in Penacony, helping the Trailblazer and Firefly escape dormancy, help wake people up from Enna's dream, and have a steamy, hot, toxic, eerie, dead sequence of Acheron. Oh my! After the events of 2.3, which is the Charmony Festival, the Nameless are deciding on what planet to go to next. However, with barely any fuel left, the next trip is crucial. So out of nowhere, Black Swan shows up and suggests the next planet we'll be going to is Amphoreus. After that, we didn't get much of her from 2.4 until 2.6 since that was the War Dance and Slumber Nana side stories or whatever. So why is she important? As I mentioned earlier, she's the one who suggested going to Amphoreus. But why? We don't know her motives to go to Amphoreus other than to maybe watch the Nameless kick ass just like how they did in Penacony. But when she finds out the Express needs fuel, she suddenly jumps in already and has Amphoreus in her back pocket. Not only that, she's most definitely our ticket into Amphoreus since she has direct ties to the Garden of Recollection. But still, even with her help, we still don't know what she's really up to. Or do we? Black Swan is a memo keeper who has ties to the Garden of Recollection, just like the Astral Express messenger. But other than her ties to the garden, why do I put these two together? Well, it's because of their relationship to March 7th. Now you're probably thinking, Raph, Black Swan and March don't share much screen time together, let alone have many conversations with each other. And you're right, they don't. But guys, this is a Honkai Star Rail theory. And what more than to not just play the game, but delve deep into the cracks within it. You may not realize it, but Black Swan is actually really interested in March as if she's checking up on her. In her voiceover lines, you can listen to her talk about different characters like the Trailblazer, Robin, Aventurine, and even Misha. It makes sense since they have important roles to play in concluding the main story. However, she has more lines for a more sidelined yet important character in the whole story, March 7th. In the About March 7th section, she states,
even if her past is a forgotten whisper, and she was once bewildered about her future, March's experiences will undoubtedly transform into unique memoria. It's exciting to think just what memories she might bestow upon the Garden of Recollection.
And in the Added to Team with March 7th section, she also says,
what meaning does this journey hold for you?
Do you see the connection I'm trying to make? You probably need proof, I understand. So I'll give it to you. On December 16th, 2023, we got a web event that celebrates the upcoming new year of 2024 called Fable of the Stars, which is themed around Black Swan and her tarot cards. When you collect these cards, you can see characters you've met on your journey until 2.0, like Himiko, Dr. Ratio, Sparkle, and even Black Swan herself. But if you notice, there's a pattern. Every single character is a 5-star character. Except for one. And who would it be other than March 7th? Dan Heng is there, but he takes the form of Imbibitor Lunae. And if you think, oh, these are only characters that are in Penacony's story, then you're wrong. Bronya, Kafka, Jingliu, and Locha are there as well. But it's still interesting that out of all the characters to be added to Black Swan's deck, it's March 7th. Now, these just feel like coincidences, yeah? If I'm being honest, yeah. But there's one thing I would like to point out from the Fushuan companion mission. Before the Express Messenger gives March 7th the light code of her being encased in ice and all that, March 7th goes into her room with Fushuan and sees the block of ice, which eventually leads to the scene with the messenger. But out of all the places for the ice to appear, why in March's room? I mean, it makes sense because it's her room and that's where all her memories and photos are the most prominent. But it could have been back at the parlor car too. Now you're probably wondering, how does this go back to Black Swan? Well...
Everyone, we meet again.
It's you! Why were you just in my room?
It's a very cute room, Miss March. Just like you.
You know, this setting isn't right. I should change the background. There! That's better! Ah! Look, I'm either built different or built stupid for believing in this, because there is no way somebody as ambiguous as Black Swan decides to look inside March's room out of all places. She could have came from the parlor car or at the end of the hallway, but no, she comes out of March's room. She is so curious about the secrets behind March's past, from talking about her to her being in the deck of cards to being in the one place where the block of ice was during the Fushuan quest. But hey, it's not like Black Swan can give us more questions and answers about the Fushuan quest, right?
The road ahead is visible. Open your eyes and face your fears. How else will you find the answer? There might be death or another price to pay. But fear not, unless I erase them, you won't forget.
What do you mean? She can erase memories? Heck, we've even seen Sparkle and Sampo be caught in her memory wiping, even if it was only temporary. Now, don't get me wrong, this does not change anything at all, because why would Black Swan wipe March's memories if she's looking for them? But I just had to point this out. This information not only gives us more options on what entity wiped March's memories, but also expands on even more possibilities as to how this even happened and why it happened in the first place. But why? Why does Black Swan care so much about March's memories? Well, it's like what she said about the Nameless. She wants to collect their memories and wants to see them in action. But maybe she's more curious about March because her case is completely different than everybody else's. But if Black Swan is a memo keeper, shouldn't the Express Messenger warn her about the dangers about digging into March's memories? If Black Swan truly knows, I think she'd still continue to go after March's memories because she knows March is ready after the events of Penacony. She's seen what March is capable of. But if she doesn't know, a collector like her would still scour for more information even if the collectible is found with a higher cost. Another piece of information I want to mention is that when 2.7 dropped, we were introduced with the party car. And Sunday is not an occurrence character that shows up randomly on the Express, but rather a character you can regularly talk to, like Welt and Himeko. However, this update also made it so that Black Swan is no longer a random occurrence, but sits in the party car with Sunday, meaning that she has her own role to play in Amphoreus that hopefully won't just involve her giving the Nameless an opening to Amphoreus when leaving. But at this point, I don't care if I'm right. I just want to spill the beans to somebody about my theory that Amphoreus won't just be about the planet, but will finally be the update where March 7th learns about her past. The patterns are all there. Oh yeah, I forgot to talk about the story patterns. Here's a quick review of the main story per planet so far. When the story begins, we get an introduction to our main protagonist, the Trailblazer. The story focuses on them exploring the space station as they familiarize themselves with the Nameless, especially when the Trailblazer is risking their life for March as they block the shot from the Doomsday Beast aiming towards her. This story is about them, and for us, the players, to get acquainted with them. Next is Jarilo-VI. The Nameless trio, Trailblazer, March, and Danhang, are sent to Jarilo-VI. They meet Sampo and Shepard, then Serval, then Bronya and Cocolia, then the Underworld. You know the story already. The Nameless help the residents of Jarilo-VI stop Cocolia and the Eternal Freeze from continuing due to the Stellaron. Eventually, the crisis is stopped and the end of the main story happens. The next story takes place in the Xianzhou Luofu, where the Nameless were intercepted by a transmission by Kafka to go there. Danhang stays behind due to trauma, but due to the fear of Blade beating the shit out of his teammates, he leaves the Astral Express, meets Sushang, meets Locha, goes on his little journey with them, and then meets Blade, turns into Imbiber Lune, and then meets up with the rest of the Nameless. In reality, this is just Danhang's story, with the massive fucking tree of the Ambrosia Arbor being somewhat of a B-plot until he shows up with the other Nameless. Eventually, they do beat Fentilia and the story ends. Next up is Penacony, where it starts with the Nameless being invited to the Charmony Festival. We agree, and Pom Pom also gives us another assignment, to find out what happened to the old Nameless trio, Mikhail, Tiernan, and Rosalina. Eventually, we do make it to Penacony and meet a bunch of people, get into several traumatizing and sad scenarios, do some goofy shit, spank Sunday for being a bad boy, and end everything off with fireworks. and then the Black Swan stuff happens, but I already talked about it earlier. Now that you're caught up, do you notice the story patterns? No? Then let me tell you. For each Nameless, we have a story dedicated to them, while some stories are dedicated about the people rather than the Nameless themselves. Penacony and Jarilo-VI are perfect examples of this. Instead of being in the shoes of the Trailblazer, March, and Danhang, try picturing it from the people's point of view. We get the stories from both overworld and underworld characters with how they live their struggling lives. Whether it be fighting in the restricted zone or in Rivet Town, these people have been suffering from the Fragmentum crisis for 700 years. It is only when they work together with the Nameless that they finally put a stop to all this, represented by Bronya and Zila being in the final fight, an overworlder and underworlder fighting side by side for the preservation of their home. In Penacony's case, we have many factions joining together. The Masked Fools, the IPC, Knights of Beauty, Galaxy Rangers, and more. What was originally supposed to be a happy-go-lucky festival turned into a planet-wide cataclysm of events that could have spread throughout the entire galaxy. When all of the pieces were put together and all the answers were solved, it was only then that every faction harmonized together to stop Sunday from spreading Anna's influence and bring out a wonderful moment in the Charney Festival. No matter how small of a role a faction played, it was the key to fix everything. Do you see where I'm going through now? These stories aren't about the Nameless themselves, but more about the people. Of course, the Nameless have to get involved since they are our main characters, but there is not a single part of Jarilo-VI and Penacony that directly focuses on a single character throughout the entire story, but we learn multiple stories instead. Unlike the Xianzhou Luofu and arguably her Space Station stories. I already summarized what the Luofu was about, but if you noticed, for several updates, Danhang was the main focus of the story, even if the group was split into two. We not only have an idea on what's going on with the Luofu with the Ambrosial Arbor, but have more insight of what's going on with Danhang's past. This is my interpretation though, but I saw the whole Ambrosial Arbor crisis as a B plot, while Danhang's past was the A plot. It's only when Danhang joins up with the rest of the Nameless and Jing Yuan is when both stories combine into the final battle. Speaking of Jing Yuan, when he finds out about Danhang, he first calls him by his past reincarnation, Dan Fang, which gives Danhang more motivation to prove that he isn't like Dan Fang. It was only until the final battle with Fantalia that Jing Yuan saw that Danhang is being serious, not wanting to be in his past footsteps, and he calls him Danhang instead of Dan Fang like previously. This gives even more proof that despite the Luofu's troubles with the Ambrosial Arbor, Danhang's story was the main show throughout the entirety of the main Luofu story. But as for her Space Station, it can be arguable to say the least. It's more of a prequel story before the first episode hits, but it is really important to one character, the Trailblazer. And just like their fellow Nameless' story, Danhang and the Luofu, the focus on the Antimatter Legion attacking her Space Station was the B plot, and the Trailblazer fighting themselves and choosing their destiny is the A plot. Do you see where I'm going? The story pattern goes from Nameless to world building to Nameless to world building. And since Penacony is the most recent story that's in the world building category, I can say with 99% confidence that Amphoreus will also be a Nameless story. March 7th specifically. After all, by the time of me writing this script, the devs confirmed in the 3.0 special program that the story would continue up until 3.8. So we have so much time to expand on not only Amphoreus but also March's past. And speaking of the special program, we got to see the Nameless Faces OP. Similarly to the White Knight OP, we get insights on what to expect coming into 3.0. New environments, new characters, and a new path for the Trailblazer. But there's something that happens in the Nameless Faces OP that is different than the White Knight OP. The Nameless' screen time. Of course, they don't get much since it is an introduction to the new planet similar to what happens in the White Knight OP, but the difference? The specific scene of March 7th as she is isolated from the group. Looking back at the White Knight OP, we don't have any one-off character-specific frame, but multiple. But March has her own, away from her Nameless companions. But something caught my eye when I saw her like this. It's the pose she makes and the scene surrounding her. Her arms crossed over her chest with ice surrounding her, just like how March saw herself in the Fu Xuan quest. And speaking of Fu Xuan, it is confirmed that Amphoreus has 3 paths that are tied to the planet. Those being Remembrance, Erudition, and I think Enigmata? That one isn't important to March, so I will ignore it. Anyways, Remembrance makes sense with all the shit I just explained, but Erudition? Herta is definitely gonna show up in Amphoreus, but she's the emanator of Erudition after all, of course. However, there's someone else who has somewhat of a connection to Erudition, Fu Xuan. Her third eye was given by Nous, the Aeon of Erudition, and it's used to predict the future with the help of the Matrix of Prescience as well. This portion may be a stretch, but what if the loading screen from the Fu Xuan quest said that March 7th, don't look back, keep moving forward meant you will not find answers by looking back now, but keep moving forward and you will find what you seek. Okay, that part about the Erudition shit with like Fu Xuan, I'm just bullshitting, but I just wanted to mention that either way, so yeah. Other than that, guys, you can tell I'm cooking here, I swear I am. But guess what? I'm not done yet. In 3.0, a new gameplay path will be introduced in the form of the Remembrance path. Aglaya is our first Remembrance limited unit, while Remembrance Trailblazer is given to us for free. Gameplay-wise, it makes sense as to why Hoyoverse is giving us Remembrance Trailblazer early, since people won't feel forced to pull for Aglaya. But story-wise, don't you think it's weird? In previous planets, the only time we get a new path is near the end of the main story, like in Jarilo-VI and Penacony. Herta's space station is the exception, since our main protagonist has to fight with something for crying out loud. But having Remembrance Trailblazer early on could mean that something big is about to happen. With everything I said about this being the March story, wouldn't it make sense that she finally gets a 5-star variant and it being in the path of Remembrance? Here, let me explain by talking about the representation of gameplay paths through their characters. Look, I don't like doing this since I like looking at information with face value that happens in the now, rather than looking through the specific cracks through the representation of the gameplay paths. That was the entire reason why I made my Zila video. Well, I was doing it for the animations. Look, if Lynx can bash a pickaxe into somebody's skull, she can bash a pickaxe into somebody's skull. If Qingshui can shoot her celestial jades at people, throw them and it can be fatal, let them cook, for crying out loud. That's me. That's how I sound like. But for this theory specifically, I have to point out something specific about when we first met March. Her first path is preservation. It makes sense as she wants to preserve the memories she has just in case another memory wipe occurs. And what perfect way to preserve said memories is by doing the thing she loves, take photos. I'm not gonna go over the hunt, it's not important. But even after everything I've said about March, her being a Remembrance unit in the future makes sense because she finally remembers her past and keeps moving forward by being herself. Well, probably. I don't know what will happen to March if she gets her memories back. But I know for certain that her past life is so important to the point that, well, I think she's an emanator. The rating pistol is the most mysterious curio in Herta's collection. It's because that everybody has a rating, but the rating itself is a number without meaning. How are these characters being rated? What qualities do they have and need in order to become the rating? Look, I don't know. I don't even know. I don't know how they get the numbers. I genuinely don't know. But what I think I know is how people get the invalid rating. If you may have noticed, characters such as Acheron and Jingyuan have ratings that are invalid for some reason. But when I looked at them, I realized something. They're emanators. Well, not in the traditional sense at least. How Jingyuan got his emanator status is by being chosen to be an Arbiter General on the Xianzhou Luofu, which has the responsibility of wielding the powers of Lan, the Aeon of the Hunt. And the same thing goes for Fei Xiao, who is also an Arbiter General, which is why her rating is invalid too. In Acheron's case, IX doesn't do shit at all, but how Acheron becomes an emanator is through the following. Due to IX's complete apathy towards the universe, they never glance at anyone, so it is a common belief that it is impossible for emanators of nihility to exist. However, emanators of nihility do exist, although IX does not deliberately create them. IX takes no deliberate actions, but IX and the path of nihility envelop everyone equally, and some who have gone under IX's shadow can become tainted with nihility, becoming self-annihilators. there exists a specific few who can single-handedly resist the encroachment of nihility, and these individuals have their self-annihilation drawn out to infinity, presumably becoming emanators of nihility. That's right, IX gets their emanators by doing absolutely nothing, and it's up to the people when they meet certain conditions, just like Acheron. Now on to the more speculative parts of the invalid ratings. Locha is the second most mysterious character next to March. We know absolutely nothing about his past, and some even theorize him to be Diamond, emanator of preservation. If that were true, it would make sense as to why his rating is invalid on the rating pistol. But do you know who else has an invalid rating? 2 4-star characters. That being Sampo and March. Sampo already has this aura like he's holding back, having a line he doesn't want to cross and such, which is why I think he's an emanator of elation, but I'm not getting into that. But March? With everything I said about her, her status as an emanator could make sense as to why she had to be taken through drastic measures to seal her away and get her memories wiped. Her 6-phase ice, for example, is really unique. We don't know much about it other than it being the very thing March was encased in, and it's also her main, ice ability. What if, when the time comes in a later Amphoreus update, we can see March as a 5-star Remembrance character who wields the powers of an emanator or is an emanator of Remembrance? There are a few holes in this part of the theory, but I'll get into that later. For now, let's connect the dots. So here's the TLDR of this theory that involves speculation to where the theory can be headed. In the upcoming 3.0 story, the Nameless will help out the fellows of Amphoreus in the Flame Chase, I think, and fix their fueling problem on the Express, while also, March finds out about her past with the help of Black Swan and most likely the domain of Amphoreus itself, which will lead March to using her abilities to the fullest as an emanator of Remembrance to help in the fight of Amphoreus, and may or may not be the key to restoring Amphoreus back to its solar system. I don't know. Let's just hope March stays as March and tries not to kill everyone. Anyways, now that we've gotten to the TLDR out of the way, I want to mention 2 holes in the theory worth mentioning. The first hole is Sunday. If you're wondering why Sunday matters, it's because he wielded the powers of an emanator before in the form of Dormiticus, more known as the Harmonious Choir, the Great Septimus. Black Swan confirmed that despite being fake, genuine in Sunday's clash of the emanators causes ordinary people to inevitably suffer. Luckily, she saves us, woohoo! But I know it's the fake ending, however, the only information that is wrong throughout is Misha showing up in the real world, which means the information Black Swan gives us about the emanators are true, at least most likely, hopefully, please. But why is this information important? Well, Sunday's rating on the rating pistol isn't invalid, but has 36 points. If he wielded the powers of an emanator, then why isn't his rating invalid? There could be many reasons, but there's one I'd like to talk about. In the end of 2.3, we see Sunday strapped to a chair as he converses with Jade. We find out that Robin wishes for Sunday to be free so that they can try to build their haven of peace, but it's Jade, so there's a cost. But we don't know that cost. Or do we? People speculated that Robin used the wish to set Sunday free, but at the cost of not being able to see her again. However, in 2.7, that doesn't seem to be the case, as they can easily converse with each other as they say their goodbyes. What I think happened is that Sunday gets to go free, but at the cost of not having those emanator abilities or the emanator status anymore. To put it in easier terms, it's as if Jingyuan no longer has Lightning Lord. It makes sense since Jade tells Sunday,
"Go now. You are free, O Chosen One, who dare to exceed his bounds. Sever your wings, descend to the mortal realm, and walk their lands. See what this world is truly like."
But if that's the case, then how is he able to fight Dominicus when he split apart from 1 week in 2.7? For me, it can mean either 2 things. 1, an actual battle occurred at the theater to prove that Sunday is willing to do whatever it takes to reach his goal, even if it involves him facing against his previous ideals and wrongdoings. 2, the entire fight is metaphorical. Sunday does say to Robin that there will be a performance in the theater that can be seen from afar, but maybe that's just the tuning process. We don't see any bloodhounds go after Welt and Sunday when the fight finishes, so there's a chance it's just metaphorical. But if it actually did happen, it would make sense for Sunday and 1 week split personalities to clash with how different they can be, even if they're the same person. Sure, this is an explanation about Sunday and his emanator stuff, but I still think it's a plot hole in the theory due to not having much information about Sunday's abilities in general. So yeah, that's what I'm going with. But the next hole in the theory is by far the biggest hole about the March emanator portion that could even ruin speculations on characters such as Sampo and even Locha. That massive hole in the theory is Herta. Herta is confirmed to be the emanator of erudition and will play a key role in Amphoreus that we don't really know about. But why is this an issue when she's 100% confirmed to be an emanator who literally hangs out with Noose? Her rating pistol score is 2. Now you understand how huge of a hole this is because other characters like Sampo and Losho who we don't know about would be seen in a different light in this case, especially March, who I literally said, oh hey, the backbone of the March 7th Remembrance emanator theory is that the rating pistol, but that's not the case if she doesn't have an invalid rating. So how do I get out of this, you may ask? Well, the Herta is confirmed to be the actual Herta that isn't one of her puppets. But the character we play as currently is one of the puppets. See where I'm going at? Despite Herta having puppets that share a similarity with her in personality and looks, the puppets don't count as emanators. This is shown a lot clearer in the most recent Keeping Up with Star Rail episode where it focuses on the Herta. Instead of Albert having Skrullum, Ruan Mei, or Asta as a guest, Herta sends 3 of her puppets as the guests for this episode. But that's not all. Each of these puppets have different personalities, especially Puppet 3 with how down bad she can sound.
Wait, there are 2 more versions of me just as cute? Am I in heaven? Wow, these 2 versions of me are so bad-tempered, so irresistibly captivating. Oh, it's Magic Girl Herta. I'm done for. Madam Herta, I beg you, use that skill on me.
Me too, Herta Puppet 3. Me too. But yeah, the March being an emanator theory's biggest plot hole or theory hole is the Herta invalid rating on the rating pistol or not thingy. So I have basically 1 day before this video may or may not become outdated. So that's that. Nevertheless, if I'm right or wrong, this video was super fun to make. This feeling within me that won't stop edging me on, and I wanted to share it with a very specific someone, but due to reasons I can't, so I'm telling the whole world instead. Anyways, that's all from me for this probably annual Honkai Star Rail Theory episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you loved it, hit the like button for a boost and subscribe for variety content. And if you hate it, the dislike button is right there. Come on, give me the dislike. I don't care. Give your opinions out. Cook, go ahead. And speaking of opinions, I also want to hear what you guys have in store for this possible theory or idea. So let me hear your own thoughts, opinions, and your own takes on this big-ass March theory, because I'd love to hear them. Other than that, that's all from me today. Stay safe, have fun, and take care of yourselves, and I'll see y'all whenever. Farewell!